Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
This episode is brought to you by Peloton. If you're looking for flexible workouts, Peloton's got you covered. Summer runs or playoff season meditations. Whatever your vibe, Peloton has thousands of classes built to push you and has something there to adapt with you whether you need a challenge or rest. Peloton has everything you need whenever you need it. Find your push. Find your power. Peloton. Visit onepeloton.com.
All right. Welcome back. It's Fit Nation. All right. Welcome back to the Misfit Nation. If you are feeling overwhelmed or floating towards the darkness, do not hesitate to phone a friend. If you are embarrassed that you are having a difficult time, call the Veteran Crisis Line at 1-800-273-8255 and press 1. That's 1-800-273-8255 and press 1. As we told you many times over the last year, do not make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are new to the show, thanks for joining us, and be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast apps. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel, _Misfit Nation. That's _Misfit Nation. So you stay up to date on all episodes as they release, while also having the opportunity of getting to hear the stories of our amazing guests. Speaking of which, our next guest is a retired battalion fire chief, is the author of Fireproof, your grand strategy to transforming failure into fuel for your future. He's a motivational speaker, coach, and mentor. He owns and operates David Hollenbach Consulting, LLC, and hosts a popular podcast, From Embers to Excellence, and is also a U.S. Navy veteran. So without further ado, let's welcome to the Misfit Nation, David Hollenbach. How are you, David?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I love what you're doing. It was just a matter of time before our paths crossed.
Definitely. And once I seen you were a battalion fire chief, I said that's someone that's something I wanted to do when I was growing up, be a fireman, even though I was deathly afraid of fire, which is, I guess the polar opposite of what you want, where maybe that's the best person to have. The person that's afraid of fire might be the one running in to put them out. But I was always afraid of it, but I always wanted to be one. So I idolized firefighters when I was growing up in New Jersey. But then I took a different path and went in the Army. So a totally different side of the emergency management world, I guess. And did hazmat response in the Army and stuff like that. So with your background, you're in the Navy first and then became a firefighter, or did you do both at the same time concurrently?
So after I graduated high school, I tried to join up. Couldn't get in because I had some hardware in my knee from a bad break to my tibia. And so I went to school. I was actually in EMT school. I had taken some fire classes. And at the time, I was in the work study program. So I was working for the college, maintaining the baseball fields. And one day I was riding on the fender of this tractor, and the main guy that took care of the fields went in this depression in the outfield of this one field, and it launched me. And when I landed, I felt one of the screws in my tibia back out. It just like went, and I looked, and you could see the head of the screw pushing against the skin like super tight.
Wow.
And so I went and got the hardware removed. And like as soon as I was healed, as soon as the sutures were healed and taken out, I went to the recruiter. I was like, I can sign up now, right? And yeah, the Navy took me, and I had to sign a medical, like a medical waiver. And when I was finishing up with A school, and fell on the stairs and broke the same damn leg.
Oh my gosh.
Did, a total of like 14 months. I actually did get orders to go to the USS Hewitt. It's a guided missile destroyer. I did finish school. I finished second in my class, but never ever got to actually go on board a ship. It's kind of frustrating, but I think probably, everything happens for a reason, right?
That's what I was just going to say. Everything happens for a reason. It led you to your career, 20 something years as a firefighter. That's a long time in the fire service. I'm sure you've seen a lot of things that you probably never wanted to see or never thought you should see in life as a firefighter.
Yeah. I was born and raised in Central Florida. Downtown Orlando, there's, really inner city kind of atmosphere around there, some bad neighborhoods. And when I joined up with the fire department, I went to the department that my dad had worked for, one he retired from, and just following in my dad's footsteps, and wanted to prove myself. And I ate it up. I mean, did some really cool stuff. But that became my identity. Even on my days off, I'd go to training. It was just eating and sleeping fire department stuff, and always wanted to be at the busy stations. And I've seen a lot more than I think people are supposed to see. And so early on in my career, it was like any gung-ho 20-something-year-old male, like you're tough, you're bulletproof. You don't really think about the effects that it's having on your psyche. And and the culture isn't one in which you would ever like say that you were having any issues. So years later, I actually promote resources on my show and on my website for veterans and first responders, because the military and the fire service and any public safety, the culture is one in which there's a stigma around coming forward with mental health issues, and nobody wants to admit that they're having a tough time with something.
Exactly. And I've seen it firsthand in the military. I came back from one of my deployments and told them something wasn't right with me, and they told me, "You're good to go. Get back in the fight." I said, "Okay, thank you. Thanks so much." And went right back to work. And it wasn't until after I actually got out of the military that I actually finally got help. So it took another 6 years, I think, from that point to get help. And now I'm doing much better now that I know I can get help and not have that stigma outside of the uniform.
It's unfortunate,
Yeah. And I'm both on your service as well, because if you have a firefighter, most firefighters are, physically fit, and they're big, strong dudes. And if they admit that we're women as well, strong women, they say all of a sudden there's something wrong with their brain, the brain housing unit, mental health. They're no longer an asset to you. You put this blink on them saying they're not good for you. And it's a shame that that's the way society is.
I actually just spoke I just spoke at an event in South Dakota. It was for the Sacred Mountain Retreat Center, which the center is in the Black Hills in Deadwood, South Dakota. And it's another resource for veterans and first responders. It's amazing. Everything is paid for.
Wow.
You go through, you apply to the program, they review it, and it's typically combat veterans, veterans that have been like the victim of military sexual trauma, and then first responders, law enforcement, corrections, fire department that are struggling with PTSD. And it's just what a great organization. And so I had gone through the program and was asked to come and speak at this fundraising event up there just a couple of weeks ago. And it was, over 400 people in there, and a lot of them, a bulk of the audience was veterans and first responders that were struggling with PTSD or knew somebody that was struggling with PTSD and just wanted to contribute. Well, I told my story, and afterwards it was one of those things where you don't realize how not alone you are when you're going through it. And, I just shared a little bit, and I had a lot of people coming up to me and being like, man, I've been there before, brother. I had one guy tell me that he just attempted the same thing that I almost did. And luckily he didn't succeed. He totaled his truck, but he didn't succeed. And it's one of those things where people that have gone through that, I think it's very rewarding to be an asset to those that are struggling with it right now.
Definitely. I agree. And that's part of the reason I started this show, is to help people get their stories out. So a lot of times my brothers and sisters don't share the story enough, and that makes it bottle up inside. And then that causes the triggers to go to the darkness and let the darkness take them away from us.
It's interesting. I've been having quite a few conversations lately with people that, actually yesterday evening, I interviewed Rudy Reyes. He actually played himself in Generation Kill, that HBO miniseries.
Right.
So, he was this Force Recon Marine, multiple deployments there in Iraq and Afghanistan, Pakistan, all that. One of those individuals that just really high achiever, type A, just go get them. And I'm sure quite a few special operations people. They're the ones that are least likely to say they got an issue and probably most likely to have it.
Right. And deeply ingrained issues.
So he shared his story, pretty moving, because a lot of times how we deal with that stress is through drugs and alcohol. So I don't really know your story. Just like you don't really know mine.
Right. We're learning now.
Yeah. So you served over in Iraq. Were you deployed multiple times, or?
4 combat deployments, Iraq and Afghanistan.
Oh, shit, man.
I was actually already deployed when 9/11 happened, and it just turned from a stabilization deployment to a combat deployment.
Thank you for serving over there.
No problem. It's my pleasure, my honor to serve my country. I tell people all the time I would do it again in a heartbeat if I went back in time.
Yeah, man. It was funny. So here's part of my story. I had been a firefighter for a few years and had already seen a ton of shit and was already doing a lot of drinking. It was just kind of part of the culture, on your days off, get together with a bunch of the guys and drink, go canoeing, whatever. I used to live in South Florida and had worked down there, and on it was December 30th. I went down south to visit friends and family and ended up partying a little bit, ended up getting a DUI, and ultimately the department chose to separate me. It was a really dark time. I ended up working for a roofing company, fell off a 3-story apartment building, fell off the roof, broke my back on September 8th, 2001.
Wow.
And was laying on my couch, high on Oxycontin, watching TV when the towers were hit, and thinking that it was a movie. When I sobered up and realized what was going on and realized how many firefighters had lost, how many lives were lost, that was the last time I took any kind of opiate. 3 days after breaking my back, the rest of the time, my recovery, I took ibuprofen. But that not being able to help, that feeling of helplessness was brutal. And when I finally healed up and was able to get back to the fire department, cleared my name, showed everybody I wasn't a piece of shit, and, made a really good name for myself, worked my way up through the ranks. I had served as the chief of special operations for my department. And then later, actually, when I retired, using air quotes there, when I retired, I was in charge of 6 stations, 2 of them being special ops stations. And I loved my career, but I tell you what, looking back on it and losing my job, because again, here, 20 years goes by and saw a lot of really bad stuff. In the last year of my employment there, 2019, I was the ranking officer on scene of 3 extremely horrific events, and the most horrific of my career. And the third one is, I had already been struggling with stuff, but this just tipped me over the edge, where I just didn't give a shit, and was making some really poor decisions in my personal life, and ended up losing it all. And almost like you said at the beginning, took a permanent solution for a temporary problem. And through all of that, and realizing that I could make it through, and I was in control of my identity and how people viewed me. And I might have stained my reputation, but I didn't destroy it. Who I am at the core is still me. And so when I started writing my book, that was kind of the intention, was to maybe help people avoid the same mistakes I made, help people recognize that it's really easy to believe that we are our occupation, especially like firefighter, police officer, soldier, sailor, Marine, the careers where you're proud. You go through hell and you accomplish some shit, and you're like, yeah, man, this is me. Well, then when you're not that anymore, you're like, fuck, who am I? So what I found is that, who I wasn't this firefighter. That was how I expressed who I was.
Right.
And I feel like most people inherently know that they're on this planet to add value to others. That's what makes us feel good when we help somebody, when we do something nice for somebody. We feel good. We feel good about ourselves. And I really think that at our core, that's our purpose in life, is to add value to others. And however you express that, however you achieve that end, that's what it is. It's the act of really showing who you are.
Exactly. And I've reading your bio, and I've seen that you started writing the book in 2010 and didn't finish it until just a year and a half ago, I guess, 2020. Yeah. I'm sure that was a struggle to get that writing while still actually being an active firefighter and in charge of other men and women in the fire department, being the ranking person, and then trying to get this book completed. How was that challenge?
So that's another, okay. So in 2010, my younger brother passed away from a drug overdose. And it completely wrecked me. We had got into an argument on Christmas Day, 2009. Told him to lose my number, told him, you're not welcome in my house. You just, stay away from my family, and cut ties with him. And February 4th, I got a phone call from a buddy at the station around the corner from my mom's house where my brother passed, telling me, there was nothing we could do. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And lo and behold, my brother passed. And just really dark time. Like that event changed me in a really negative way for a period of time, until I I have this beautiful daughter, and I just really didn't want her to experience me like that. So, I had to shape up. But like a couple of months after he passed, I was at the beach with my wife at the time and my daughter. And I went for a run, just trying to get out some of that negative energy. And it's like I was trying to outrun the tears, and ran about 5 miles down the beach really freaking fast, like a sprint. And I was just annihilated when I stopped, and was like, I can't do this. And I started wading out in the water. I was going to swim out and just swim until I couldn't swim anymore. And my legs were like jelly, and it was like, shit, man, I can't even swim out past my waist. Like, And I laid on the beach, cried, and just was like, how can I make any kind of sense of this? And that was when I decided to write a book on leadership. And I had put together a program for the crew at my station. It ended up growing into a leadership development program for the entire department.
Wow.
And so as time went on, I was writing and adding to it. I'd go back and look at what I had written a couple of years before and like, oh man, I was an idiot, and like start over, like, because as you get more responsibility, as you learn and evolve and learn lessons through making mistakes, it was an evolution. And so I never finished that book. It wasn't until I left the department in 2019 and really went to that dark place and realized, like I gotta use this negative energy for something positive. I know something good can come out of this. And so I sat down with that book and ended up using some of it, but for the most part, it's a completely different book. I think it's more philosophical, and it's got some personal stories in it, really specific to my failures, my mistakes, my blunders, and the lessons that I learned from those instances. I've studied leadership for a long time, and anybody will, if you study leadership for any amount of time, you'll find that that history's greatest leaders had all experienced these horrendous failures where it challenged who they were. And when they realized that they weren't broken, they came back even better. And now we know them as some of the greatest leaders of all time. So yeah.
If you don't try, if you don't, like Wayne Gretzky, Wayne Gretzky said, if you miss 100% of shots you don't take. All those leaders took shots and they missed a lot of times until they finally hit that home run where they got that goal and they were able to do something spectacular and lead people to victory. And that's when they became famous because of the victory. And everyone forgets about everything that happened before that. And vice versa, if you make a mistake at the end, they forget all the good things you did prior to. So it's the same kind of pendulum swinging.
Yep. Yeah. I think, and I haven't made my last mistake. It's I just got to minimize the effects on my life with the next one.
You understand the third order effects after you make so many mistakes. You know what happens down the road, so you know how to try to make a smaller mistake moving forward.
Yeah,
or be more conscious of yourself as you're doing things. What is your goal with the book? What is your goal for the audience to get out of the book?
So, like the title kind of alludes to, like I walk people through building a grand strategy for their life, kind of identifying what their core values are, what is really meaningful to them. Because if you don't really examine yourself and dig deep, a lot of times we just live on the surface. And when our life hits some turbulence, it can really wreck things. But I think if we can figure out what's important to us and try and stay true to what is important to our core values, we can live a better life. And, recognizing that what you desire in life, like your end state, isn't necessarily like, most people retire long before they die.
Yes.
So all those accolades that you might get from a career, in whatever endeavor, they don't really mean crap when you're laying on your deathbed, So not saying don't try and be the best at what you do, but understand that's not who you are.
Right.
And I have a lot of tools in the book, sprinkled throughout the book, just stuff that I've learned through the years to help me manage stress. I do some talks on leading in stressful environments. That was part of the curriculum for the department I was in, is really leading in high stress environments. There are things that can really help anybody. It's stuff that I'm sure that some of it I took from the military, so you might be aware, like box breathing and,
right.
It's things that, I would apply when, say I was an incident commander on a large fire or an active shooter or something like that, where it's pretty stressful and there's a lot of moving parts. Being able to like calm your mind and get recentered when all hell is breaking loose. So it's just what I want people to walk away with the book is just really how to lead a better life, a more meaningful life. I don't know, give yourself some grace. We all make mistakes. Some mistakes are going to be bigger than others, but it's what you do with that. Especially what I've found is that when you're struggling with PTSD and you're chasing whatever feel good or shot of dopamine, if it's you're an adrenaline junkie or, picking up a woman at the bar or just getting drunk or whatever that dopamine hit is for you, when you're chasing that's just temporary and it doesn't fix the need for that dopamine, Right. So we tend to make less than good decisions when struggling with PTSD. And what I've found is a lot of people that are struggling, if they're not working on healing those traumas, can end up making some pretty poor decisions. And I'm speaking from personal experience, but through the healing process and meeting other people with the same issues, it's you can feel like you've nuked your life.
Right.
So that's one of the things in the book is just, give yourself some grace when you make some poor decisions. It's not the end.
Right. You always have a chance to come back better. Every time you fall down, you got to get back up. And that's what you judge by, how many times you get up, not how many times you fall down. And
absolutely.
And I'm hoping when people read your book, they understand that. And when it comes out, you said it'll come out in October timeframe, right? And
yep. That's
the author copies here soon.
Yep. Yeah. That's the official release is October 11th. And I'll be having like a little soft release leading up to that October date. I'll be offering books on my website and at different speaking engagements. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
So speaking of your website, I'm sure that's the place where people can get in contact with you if they want to learn about leadership or hire you as a consultant or actually find out about your book. What is the website title?
It's hollenbachleadership.com.
It's very simple. It's good. hollenbachleadership.com. And Dave, thanks for sharing your story with us from everything you've done in your career. Thank you for all you've done for your community and all the people that you led through the fire department in your career. It's amazing journey for you, and congratulations on your book.
And thank you so much, and thank you for everything that you're doing. What an amazing thing that you're doing. I really appreciate the opportunity to share with your audience too. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too, man.
You know how we do this. Thanks for taking some of your time to spend with us on Fit Nation. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and share the link as much as possible. If you want to, please become a supporter to help us carry this thing on. We appreciate you. If you know someone that brings that energy, has a great story, is an up-and-comer in any industry of music, in the arts, have them reach out to us on themisfitnation.com. We will get back to them within one day and get them on here so they can share their story with the world. As always, till next time, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are Fit Nation.